Hello, hello, hello. Good day. We count it all joy to be together on this day. So happy that you are here with us. Dr. West and myself, we have so much to explore. It's official. President Trump did indeed, no surprise here, sign the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. We're going to take a deeper dive into the signing of that executive order. His Secretary of Education was hitting all the national shows on Sunday trying to explain that much needed programming like the funding for students with disabilities, IDEA, will be protected among others. I'm not so sure about that. And then Republicans and Democrats, they are getting an earful from their constituents all across the country. People are speaking up and speaking out about their disappointment and their anger over what the Trump administration is doing in this moment. I am so glad to see it. And Congresswoman Mia Love passed away on Sunday at the age of 49 years old. She was the first African-American woman elected to the Congress as a Republican. She had brain cancer. And, you know, Doc, I spent a lot of time on and off with her on various CNN shows and found her to be just uh, a very delightful woman, very much believed, you know, she was strong in her beliefs. And I just want to give condolences to her family. I really enjoyed being on air with her and then having sidebar conversations with her as well. So condolences to the Congresswoman's family and friends. The doctor is indeed in the house. Dr. West, what is on your heart, your soul, and your mind on this day?
No, like you, my prayers go up for her and her soul and her blessed family. Though I never was blessed to meet her at all, but she was so young, though, Sister
Yeah,
Nina.
49.
Ah,
49, brain cancer, you know. And you know, Doc, you just never know what somebody's going through because
yeah,
that's not something that you could look at somebody and necessarily tell. You might look at them and say, oh, they lost weight or some other physical things are happening, but you may not necessarily know that they have cancer. So, what a reminder to us to be kind to one another, to not let politics upend every aspect of our life in such a way that we cannot have concern for people or just show a little love and a little compassion. Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the last time I saw her, and you always think, you know, you never really think necessarily that you're not going to see somebody again. We always take that for granted that we're going to see each other again. And so I'm just really struck by that. And you're right, she was very young.
it's so very, very young. But I mean, but it behooves us, though, given the fact that we should always be aware that important way vanishing creatures. We're not here long. The transience and contingency is who we are. And it means then we ought to be as loving, as you say, as courageous, as visionary as we can be given the short time that we have in space and time. And I think what that means to me more than anything else is that we want to be able to leave a witness that we could believe reflects the best of who we are and what was poured into us. Think about this in relation to these universities. I know we're going to talk about education as a whole, but you think about it though, these universities now are being just thoroughly shaped and molded by a very narrow sense of ideology and indoctrination coming out of the Trump administration. There's
Yeah.
no concern about truth. That's what education is about. There's concern about beauty. That's what education is about. It's not a deep concern about goodness. That's what education is about. They've got their conception of what they want taught. And the sad thing is, given the short time that so many professors and administrators have in these universities, most of them are capitulating.
Yeah.
They're conformists, they're cowardly, they're giving in so quickly to what Trump wants because he's dangling the money. It's just another sign of every institution and too many persons worshiping money. It's a form of idolatry. And to be quite honest and frank about it, too, I mean, it's clear that, when you have in Gaza 13 universities,
Yeah.
rock of a laboratory, of a dormitory, of a classroom has been demolished in 15 months. Have we heard a mumbling word from any university professor or administrator concerned about the demolition of universities, 13 of them, every university in the in Gaza gone? Not a mumbling word. So you say to yourself, oh, you all don't really care about truth and justice and education. You're concerned about your job. You're concerned about your career. You're concerned about making it possible for you and your institution to have access to money. But that's not what education is about.
That's right, Doc. We're supposed to be there to think critically, to build character,
Right.
but the Trump administration, they don't want people to think critically. They want Stepford Wives, for those who are familiar with that movie.
But the Trump is criticizing, they can't come back because they don't have the courage. They haven't been adequately educated. They've been narrowly schooled. They
Yeah.
haven't really educated because we know where Trump is coming from. I mean, we we talk about his gangsterization of the country all the time, but it's the response that is so disappointing. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting at Columbia University, and I say, shame on Columbia University president, shame on Columbia University administrators to capitulate all these years, all of these decades. You've been talking about your commitment to education, your commitment to the quest for truth.
Yeah. They sold out for $400 million, Doc. That, I guess it was worth it to them. When we come forward, we will continue this conversation. You are listening to Truth Time.
Speaking truth to power. And to the powerless. This is Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ABC radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC radio.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Stories are power. The Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project is an effort to collect, preserve, and amplify stories of Black land loss. It will form an invaluable resource for scholars, authors, historians, educators, storytellers, policymakers, and change agents who wrestle with issues of restitution, reparations, racial inequality in home ownership, and the racial wealth gap. Through documenting stories of Black land loss, the archive will help demonstrate the magnitude of what Black families have lost and will continue the national dialogue to encourage paths to restitution, rebuilding, and healing. Support the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project by visiting www.blacklandlost.org or by donating at www.blacklandlost.org/donate. Spread the word to inspire awareness, activism, leadership, and change. And join us in making a lasting impact. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. To thine own self be true. More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner coming your way right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
For those of you who have come forward with us, thank you so much. If you are just now joining us, welcome. We count it all joy that you are here. Today, Dr. West and I are exploring the fact that President Trump did indeed sign the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. Comes as no surprise. We're going to break some of that down and what the impact could be, will be, to the 90% of children in the United States of America who attend a public school. 90%. And Democrats and Republicans have taken to the road. Well, Republicans have backed off a little bit, but town halls are happening all over the country where constituencies, whether they're Republican or Democrat, are letting their elected representatives have it. And this is indeed a beautiful thing. If we are going to get change, it is going to have to bubble up from the grassroots all across this country. And hopefully this moment will cause all working class people to unite based on what they have in common. And Congresswoman Mia Love passed away on Sunday. She was a congresswoman from the great state of Utah, the first African-American woman elected as a Republican to the Congress overall. She passed away from brain cancer. Dr. West and I are lifting up her family, her friends, and sending so much love. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I did have an opportunity to be in community with the Congresswoman several times as we were on CNN together. And it was always a pleasure to join her both on air and also behind the scenes. And, you know, Doc, it's really behind the scenes where you really do get to know somebody. It's not just those little sound bites we hear in 4 minute, 6 minute segments. It's when you're able to have a conversation with people. And I tell you, I did enjoy our conversations, and I'm just shaking my head because, again, never thought that I would not necessarily see her again. And hopefully this is a reminder that death can happen to anybody at any age, at any time. And that if we have people that we love, people that we care about, even people that we just want to lift up, make that phone call, send that text message, let people know that you're thinking about them, because as the scripture says, Doc, tomorrow is not promised.
That's very real. Very, very real. That's true for empires. Come and go.
Yeah.
Come and go. Regimes come and go. Politicians come and go. And this too shall pass in terms of what's happening in the White House. The question is whether we have a strong enough response and a resistance so that people feel as if there is a credible alternative. Because if people don't believe there's an alternative, then what passes gets worse and worse and worse.
That's right, Doc. And that's what we're seeing now, you know, the move from a neoliberal president to now a neo-fascist. And we see, things can get worse if people don't have something to hold on to. So it's not just enough, you know, to go out and rail against people. It is what is the vision that will provide provision for the people. So Doc and I will get into that when we talk about these town halls. But for now, let's talk about the dismantling of the Department of Education. About 1,300 employees have been let go. Their firing is in litigation, is in the courts right now as those workers are fighting to get their jobs back. The programs that the Department of Education manages, all of those programs, some of those programs will simply go away. Others are take an act of Congress, like the IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Act, which was put in place to ensure that children that were elderly abled would not be discriminated against and would have the requisite services in public schools that they needed to be able to grow and to thrive with their otherly able colleagues, their other companions that went to school with them. And now all of this stuff is up in the air. And, I saw the Secretary of Education on Sunday, Doc, on one of the Sunday shows, and she was saying a whole lot of nothing. It didn't make sense. She wasn't even really answering the questions directly. And they just don't know what they're doing. They just cut without really analyzing how those cuts will impact the services of any of these departments, but particularly the Department of Education. And so he signed it, and their Republicans have been fighting for a long time for an avenue to eliminate free public education. And when I say free, let me go back and say it is an investment of our tax dollars. It's a social contract. So they've been waiting, lying in wait for a long time to dismantle the social contract that we have one to another in terms of making sure that our children have an education. It was not always that way in the United States of America. Education was reserved to wealthy white males. And then over time, as a society, as we evolved, we understood the social good, that a social contract to educate all of our children would be on society, that child, their community, and society, and the world as a whole. And so we've been making that investment collectively for decades now. And Doc, look at this. They dismantling the thing, and they have a plan. The plan is for the onslaught of public of private schools, charter schools.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, one thing to keep in mind, and we know the crucial distinction between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance, you do not know certain truths. All of us have a certain kind of ignorance, no matter how learned we are. Yes. But stupidity is something else. See, stupidity is interest in knowing the truth. You don't want to know the truth. So what we're dealing with is a project of socialized stupidity promoted by the Trump administration. And Trump himself has no interest in the truth. He's been lying thousands of times for the last number of decades. So how you going to get somebody who is continually promoting untruths and lies to be interested in the truth, which is to say interested in education? The sad thing around him, his cronies, they can then use his commitment to socialized stupidity and say, we don't want to hear talk about race. We don't want to hear talk about class. We don't want to hear talk about United States overturning democratic regimes around the world, be it Iran in the 50s or Guatemala in the 50s or Brazil in 64. We can go all the way up Congo in 61 and so forth. They don't want to hear those truths. They're too painful. So what happens now on the ground is we're going to shift to the states and allow them to promote certain conceptions of schooling that do not promote, as you rightly said, critical thinking of the best and the worst. There's been the best in the country. There's been the worst in the country. The truth has to embrace the best and the worst. If they're going to tell a little white lie, whitewash the history, and not tell the painful truths about the history, then they have no interest in the truth at all. It's narrow indoctrination, narrow ideology. And so much of it, especially with his far right-wing followers, white supremacist ideology, they are now wiping away all the contributions of black folk to the history. How are you going to tell history without black contributions? It's going to be but a trail of lies, a trail of lies. That's all it could be, because you have to be able to acknowledge the crucial role that poor people, working people, black people, women have played. That doesn't mean the white brothers haven't done anything. No, they played their role too. You got to tell the whole history. They're not interested in that.
No, they are not. I love your line, Doc. Socialized stupidity. That pretty much is what it is. And our children are going to be ill-equipped to deal with the world, to deal with this country, only knowing part of our history. They're doing a disservice to our young people. They think that they're not. Now, the Economic Policy Institute, Doc, went in deep, and so I want to share some of what they laid out in terms of what President Trump is doing. And I'm quoting them: while closing the Department of Education and reappropriating major funding programs like those under the Individuals with Disabilities Act would require an act of Congress. Now, Dr., you and I have both made it very clear that the Congress has abdicated its responsibility to be a co-equal checks and balances power, or branch of government, if you will, on the executive. Republicans are scared to death that Trump was going to primary them, and Democrats ain't got no spine. But let me go back, because they didn't say this in the article.
That's real. That's worth accenting what you said.
I'm telling you, it's that. So, this act by Trump, as we said earlier, furthers a longstanding right-wing agenda to eliminate free, publicly funded education for children, and sows confusion for districts regarding whether they will be able to count on key revenue sources like Title I, which goes to poor school districts, rural, urban, and suburban, like IDA, the Individual Disabilities Act, and the Child Nutrition Act in the coming years. So, Doc, they know exactly what they are doing, and they throwing all of this in chaos. For example, they're saying some of the work of the Department of Education will go under Health and Human Services. Other of the work, for example, the Pell Grant, is going to go under the Small Business Administration. I mean, so yeah, let us not forget Pell Grants for people going to college, and those Pell Grants go to folks who are in the working class, among the poor and the working class. So all of this, Doc, is designed to get the end result, which is they want to totally upend public education as we know it. And that's notwithstanding that there is a serious critique about public education in the United States of America, what needs to be changed to ensure that our children are getting the highest quality education. That's a real critique. However, what the Trump administration is doing right now is not critique. They are trying to destroy and dismantle public education.
That's exactly right. And that's what a fascist project does. That's what a fascist program does. It tries to keep people so fearful that they're unlikely to want to really stand up and fight because of repression coming away.
Yes.
And keeping people fearful, you then push through programs that not only dumb down, but try to render children and citizens simply passive consumers.
Yeah.
And deferential persons to an unjust order, to a fascist order. So it's trying to squeeze out all of the sources of resistance and all of the sources of strong response. And you're seeing this across the board. You see it on the streets in terms of the protests, not just students, but on the streets and neighborhoods. Then you see it on Wall Street. Look at Paul Weiss. What did Paul Weiss do? Capitulate, just like Columbia. Who was Paul? A leading Wall Street firm, and Trump told them they have no security clearance, they have no access to any public building. So many of their clients must access the public building. Paul Weiss did what? They said, we will defer to Trump and we will promote millions and millions of dollars for free for Trump's causes. And this is a liberal law. They got scared based on what? Money, money, money. So when you connect fear with, what does the Bible say? The root of all evil, the love of
love. Yes.
Remind us of love of money and fear. You get people to do anything.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the gangster proclivities. I think that's what you call it. I mean, yeah, this is gangsterism through and through in the White House. As I mean, it's just mind blowing in our lifetime to see this stuff unfold the way that it is. Instead of people standing up to this man and uniting forces, you know, that law firm could have united with other law firms and not giving in to him. But it's
Perkins is holding on. You know,
yes,
holding on. There's one or two law firms trying to hold on. We'll see how long they do. But and it's important to keep in mind, there are people who are fighting and responding and resisting, but not enough.
Yeah, and there's value in doing this thing together. What's that saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so as he is attacking all of the institutions in the way that he is, people should unite their forces. But you're right, Doc. There are some people who are resisting, and God bless them for doing so. When we come forward, we will continue this conversation. We're going to dip into these town halls that Republicans and Democrats are having. You are listening to Truth Time.
The truth will set you free, but first it might raise your blood pressure.
I'm not driving you, baby.
More of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Dallas, Texas honored its first Black police officer, William McDuff, over a century after his death. McDuff, who served in the late 1800s, was murdered weeks after taking office. The city recognized his contributions and the mystery of his story. Education Secretary Linda McMahon stated that federal funding for essential education programs will continue, even as the Trump administration moves to shut down the Department of Education. Programs will be transferred to other agencies for efficiency. Tuberculosis cases in the U.S. are at their highest in over a dozen years, with over 10,000 cases reported last year, an 8% increase from 2023. And the federal judge dismissed a copyright lawsuit against Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, ruling that music experts couldn't prove enough similarity between her song and one by Louisiana songwriter Vince Vance. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tonight is the final home game at the Galen Center for the USC women's basketball team. USC plays Mississippi State for the right to advance to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. It's another chance for the nation to see USC star Juju Watkins. The sophomore from Compton is the front runner for National Player of the Year honors. Watkins, a 2-time first-team All-American, is the nation's second leading scorer behind Florida State guard Taniyah Watson. Watkins is averaging 24.6 points, 3.5 assists, and 2.2 steals. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight. If you don't have a ticket, you can catch the game live on ESPN. If USC wins, they will play Kansas State on Saturday in Spokane, Washington. Something to keep on your radar. If USC and UCLA win their region, they will play each other for the 4th time this season in one of the semifinals at the Final Four in Tampa on April 4th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon Fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record, unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, we know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
I'm back. Love and truth indeed. I always mute myself. Love and truth indeed. If you are just joining us, welcome. If you have been here for this robust discussion the entire time, we really appreciate you. If you have missed any part of this show, please download the KBLA app. Do that today. And wherever you get your podcast, you can go back and check out Dr. West and myself. We've been rolling strong since January the 6th of this year. Dr. West and I have been unpacking the dismantling of the Department of Education and the impact that that will have for 90% of our children who attend public schools. And this has been part of the GOP's mastermind to just do away with public education as we know it. We got to rise up and speak out about this and push the Congress to stop abdicating its responsibility and do its job as a check and a balance on this administration. And Doc, we're going to go into these town halls that are happening all across the country. We also gave our condolences to the family of Congresswoman Mia Love, who passed away on Sunday from brain cancer at the young age of 49 years old. The Congresswoman was the first Republican, the first African-American woman elected to Congress as a Republican in the entire country. And may she rest in peace. And may God give her friends and families the strength that they need in their moment of sorrow. Doc R is jumping in the YouTube chat right now. So I am going to turn to this and share some of what our viewers are saying. Blessed Peacemaker. Welcome, Blessed Peacemaker, per usual. Greetings, Senator Turner and Dr. West. Good to be with you again. We are so glad that you are here with us. We really appreciate you. CM, this is a good show. Stay consistent and it will grow. Well, we appreciate your faith in us. Consistent. Oh, go ahead, Doc.
No, moral consistency is a species of integrity, and we intend to go down with integrity.
Yeah, we do. Consistency is key. And also, CM has a question for us. CM asks, do you believe HBCUs fall into the DEI classification, and will they survive this political era? That's a really good question.
A very, very good question. I mean, so much depends on the degree to which historically Black universities are dependent on federal funding. You see, the Columbia and Harvard and Yale, you got almost $1 out of $4 coming from the government. So when the government pulls the plug, you're in a world of trouble. I think there's no doubt that the Pell Grants have been tied to public funding, but if the Pell Grants are going to be mediated through the state, then thank God our students still have access to those resources. But we would have to look college by college to see to what degree they are dependent on federal funding, because that's what his gangsters are controlling and using as a carrot to get these universities to kowtow and bow down.
Yeah, that is certainly a good question. We're going to keep watch. I mean, HBCUs were created because Black folks, see, people don't think about this, Doc. They want to talk about DEI. Let's talk about why DEI is a thing anyway, diversity, equity, inclusion, which shouldn't be anything wrong with it. It's a thing because this country discriminated against Black people and other folks, and then otherly abled folks. I mean, it's a thing because it was trying to right a wrong somewhat. And the same thing with historically Black colleges and universities had to be created because mainline white led universities would not allow Black folks into those classrooms. Lawsuits had to be filed and all of that. And so Black people have always wanted and lifted up the banner of education. This is why HBCUs exist. But such a powerful question. A question coming from 3P Detroit. Hey, 3P Detroit. Do you guys feel the Federal Department of Education benefited the American people?
Oh, certainly it did. Certainly it did. Anytime it provides resources for children, especially poor children, especially vulnerable children, I don't care if it's one child. It could be John, it could be Susan, it could be Shaniqua. If it benefits one child, it's positive. And we know it has benefited thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of children. Absolutely.
Yeah, it has. And again, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at the configuration of our education system, whether or not we need to do more, do things differently. Yeah, I would be the first one to say we need to do some things differently. Also, only about 10% of any school district or state's funding comes from the federal government. Most funding for public education comes from those local communities. So keep that in mind as well while they're railing against the Department of Education. It's just a smokescreen just to do away with it and to cut funding, much needed funding for the children who need it. Doc, we have another question. This is coming from Blessed Peacemaker. Can you chat a bit about Butch Ware running for California governor? What's the future of the third party candidates of 2024? Will you all come together in any way?
But no, we're going to stay on our beat here in terms of talking about the vicious attacks on education and what have you. But certainly when you think about the opposition and resistance, it's got to take a lot of forms. And it means then that it's going to be a lot of voices, a number of institutions that play a role. Now, I've never met Brother Butch Ware, but I know he ran for vice president on the Green Party. And there's a lot of decent people in the Green Party, and they are playing and will play a role in the opposition. But in terms of which particular candidates for a particular office, we would have to wait and see exactly what the options are and what the context actually is.
Yeah, agreed on that. And I mean, third parties or independent candidates definitely have a role. I've had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Butch Ware. I applaud him for challenging the duopoly, and we need more people, just as you did, Dr. West, when you ran for president, to challenge this duopoly, which is epically failing the American people. We appreciate that question. Stephen Minsky, the emperor has no clothes. As the Black Panther said, power to the people.
No, that's very real. That's very well. The power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. The emperor has no clothes, but the emperor still can cast a spell on those who are willing to be blind enough to follow. And that's part of the problem. You see that Nero didn't have any clothes either, but he was just fiddling as Rome burned. That's how empires not only collapse, but they're unable to provide alternatives to themselves because the people themselves are not able to raise their voices and organize and create an alternative. It's one thing to talk about the burning fire. I mean, Martin himself said, am I integrating into a burning house?
Yeah.
Is America a house? Well, at the end of his life, he said, yes, it is a burning house. But what do you do when a house is burning? That's the crucial question. Martin said, well, you got to be firemen. Well, others said, no, you burn it down. What kinds of alternative are you providing for the children? What kind of alternative are you providing for poor people and working people? What is your relation to other nations around the world, other regions around the world? Those are the kind of questions that become crucial when you recognize that the emperor has absolutely no clothes whatsoever.
None. And thank you for pointing that out, Stephen. And the power to the people. Yeah, Chairman Fred Hampton, famous words, all power to the people. And that's the moment that we need right now. If each and every one of us put a little extra on our ordinary, extraordinary things can and will happen. We can't give up. When we come forward, we will continue. You are listening to Truth Time.
It's Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes. So it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA KBLA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Truth crushed to earth shall rise again. You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
So, Doc, just a few more in the chat. We want to thank everybody who is joining us live and taking out of their time today to dialogue with one another, and also Dr. West and myself. We know that you could be doing any other thing, but you're chatting, and we really do. We appreciate you. We appreciate all our listeners and viewers, particularly those who are engaged in the chat. Doc, so breaking news, which I'm really glad that this is being brought to our attention. So 23andMe, and this is coming from Forensic Accountant. So thank you, Forensic Accountant. And I did see a headline, breaking news. A bankruptcy court has ruled that DNA testing service 23andMe can sell customers' data. And I did see the headline for that, Doc. I mean, that is, hundreds of thousands of people have given their DNA to try to find their ancestors, particularly African Americans in particular, who, if you are descendants of enslaved people, you don't not necessarily have that connection. You don't know from where on the continent your people may hail from. It's not just African Americans who use this, but particularly African Americans who use this. But a court has ruled that they can sell customers' data. That is quite troubling. Lemon exhaustion. Good afternoon, Senator Turner. I hope you had a nice Women's Month. Oh, thank you, Lemon exhaustion. I am enjoying Women's History Month. And our sister Shayla Johnson is in the house as well. So thank you to so many of you for joining us. So, Doc, a lot of the elected, or some, let me not say a lot, some of the elected representatives in Congress have taken to town halls in their communities, both Republicans and Democrats. Now, Republicans are getting an earful in their districts, people complaining about what President Donald J. Trump is doing. They are not happy about it because he's doing anything other than what he ran on. He did not run on dismantling the Department of Education, firing thousands of federal workers, putting post offices in jeopardy. Doc, he didn't run on any of that. He ran on, I'm going to bring down inflation. I'm going to bring down the cost of groceries primarily. He ran as a populist. It turns out he's a faux populist, but that is what he ran on. So people are letting these representatives have it. And it's not just Republicans are getting it. Democrats are getting it too. And their constituents are saying to them, why aren't you fighting back? Why did Leader Schumer agree to that continuing resolution? What are you guys going to do to fight? And then we have some elected representatives who are going into red districts. Our colleague, our dear brother in this fight, Congressman Ro Khanna, has been touring in red districts because Republicans, as of late, have said, whoa, we don't want none of this. And they have been advised to stop their town halls.
I know Brother Bernie's been out there too, doing his thing with the sister AOC. But the problem is that, you see, as long as they remain tied to a Democratic Party that view them as the fringe and the periphery and the edge, then all the truth-telling in the world is going to be difficult to have the kind of impact it should, because you end up reinforcing the same party that is dominated by the corporate powers, dominated by the big money too. So we really 22 situation in terms of going out and wanting to speak the truth. That's Brother Rowe, Brother Bernie, this is the AOC, wanting to speak the truth, but still then trying to somehow convince a Democratic Party that is as hard-headed as one can imagine. Now, Bernie's been saying Go on and run independent. Because the Democrats act right, run independent. Now,
Well, finally, Doc, when we come forward, we will continue this conversation. You're listening to Truth Time.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This is where love and truth meet.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You're listening to Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Nina Turner.
I'm back. These town halls that Congress members are hosting all over the country are drawing crowds, and people are speaking up and speaking out, both to Democrats and also to Republicans. So Representative Harriet Hagman, who is a Republican from Wyoming, she faced a crowd that was letting them know they don't agree with DOGE. They do not agree with the Department of so-called efficiency. I call it the Dodge Department. It's just ridiculous. I don't even know. We're acknowledging that this is a department, but it's all make-believe and is there to disrupt and has a corrupting force. But here we are. But they're letting them know this is not what we voted for. So boos, jeers, heckling, all of that is happening in these town halls. And I think as more Americans wake up to the fact that what is happening in this White House thus far, at least when it comes to those kinds of the DOGE, it's not working.
It's not working. No, that awakening is very important and it's necessary. But I think we're at the point now that if we can't move toward a national strike or some kind of collective, massive boycott to show the power of people, then the gangsters at the top will still just do what they want and hear all the booing in the world and just keep doing it.
And you made a point, Doc, as we came forward about how if the people who are out, who are, decent for the most part, these elected officials, if they continue to champion the banner of the Democratic Party, that you don't really necessarily see much change happening.
I think it forces a despair. It reinforces a paralysis. It reinforces a sense of impotence and powerlessness, because people can't see any institutions following through on what they know ought to be done, which is to empower working people and poor people.
And a lot of that is about this dark money that is in politics, that both parties eat at the trough of their owner donors. So we don't have a resistance party, so to speak. You know, we have a party that presents itself a little more pleasantly, as Minister Malcolm said. He said it best: the difference between the fox and the wolf. But they both answer to the types of power, these corporate interests, and these corporate interests really control everything. And I think that's what you're getting at, Doc. But I'm really happy, and I'm sure that you are too, to see the people bubbling up, and hopefully that will lead to some action and transformation. That is what we're looking for. Well, listen, Dr. West and I, we truly enjoyed you being with us today. We want you to live purposefully, live on purpose, and remember, titles are good, but purpose is better. Until next time.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. We still swinging.
For things you should know with BIN News, Dallas, Texas honored its first Black police officer, William McDuff, over a century.
To memorials, to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.